It's a cold November evening in Wentzville, Missouri. A young wife sits down to dinner with her husband. She's pregnant. She's laughing 1 minute and gone the next. By morning, she's vanished without a trace. Her husband is frantic, calling police, posting pleas for help online, offering thousands in reward money. The community rallies, friends search wooded fields, neighbors check security cameras. But detectives notice something. The husband's story doesn't quite fit. There's bleach in the air at his home. The carpet's been cut away. And his phone. It's been somewhere he swears he never went. 3 weeks later, in the frozen woods of Troy, Missouri, they find her. And the man who begged for her safe return will become the man accused of killing her. What happened between that dinner table and the cold ground where she was found is a story of betrayal, obsession, and a murder planned in plain sight. Full story. It started as a love story and ended in a nightmare. Jennifer Rothell was the kind of woman people described as bright, warm, and utterly dependable. In 2010, as a chemical engineering student at the University of Missouri-Columbia, she met Bo Rothell in a lab. He was quiet, intelligent, and focused, not like the other college boys. They were assigned as lab partners. Over beakers and formulas, friendship turned into love. They played board games late into the night, dreamed of careers, and talked about children they hadn't yet met. In 2015, after years of dating, they married in St. Louis County. To their friends and family, they were inseparable. They bought a beautiful home on North Wines Drive. Jennifer decorated it with care. Bo worked on small repairs. Their life looked like the American dream. But dreams can rot from the inside. By the autumn of 2018, Jennifer and Bo Rothell stood at the edge of a new chapter, one they had both dreamed about for years. They were ready to start a family. For Jennifer, motherhood wasn't just a goal. It was part of her identity waiting to be fulfilled. She pictured bedtime stories, small hands in hers, and Christmas mornings with a child's laughter echoing through their home. But then, the diagnosis, endometriosis. The word landed like a stone in her stomach. It meant pain. It meant uncertainty. And worst of all, it meant getting pregnant would be far more difficult than they'd ever imagined. The journey that was supposed to be joyful began to feel like a science experiment. They approached conception like engineers, ovulation charts on the fridge, thermometers by the bed, reminders on their phones. Every moment of intimacy became scheduled, calculated, measured. The warmth between them cooled. The romance faded into routines and obligations. Jennifer stayed committed. Every month that passed without a positive test was a small heartbreak, but she pushed forward with determination. Bo didn't. In quiet moments, Jennifer noticed it, the way his touch lingered less, the way his mind seemed far away. What she didn't know was that in June 2019, while she was timing fertility windows, Bo was opening a secret door in their marriage. A fake Facebook account, a new woman, a second life. Jennifer, meanwhile, never lost faith. She still believed the struggle would bring them closer. She still trusted the man beside her. But every failed month didn't just chip away at their hope for a baby, it chipped away at the marriage itself. And in the shadows, Bo's betrayal was already taking root, setting the stage for a tragedy Jennifer could never see coming. It was late October 2019 when Jennifer's world finally lit up. The little plus sign on the pregnancy test meant everything. She could barely contain her excitement. After months of frustration, after doctor's visits and quiet tears, she was finally pregnant. She imagined telling Bo the moment she had replayed in her mind for years. That evening, while they waited for a pizza delivery, she walked into the room where he stood and said the words she'd been longing to say. "I'm pregnant." For Jennifer, it was a dream fulfilled. For Bo, it was a nightmare realized. He later claimed he nearly dropped the pizza box. In that instant, his double life, the wife at home and the mistress in secret, collided. And the truth was, he wasn't picturing baby clothes and nursery paint. He was picturing being trapped. Within days, he was messaging his mistress again, laying out his options. End the affair completely. Tell Jennifer the truth, get a divorce, and face financial ruin while raising a child he didn't want. Wait and see how the pregnancy went. And if there was a miscarriage, or something. When pressed to choose, Bo admitted, "If I'm being selfish, I guess number 3. The word something would later become the centerpiece of the prosecution's argument, the shadow of premeditation. Jennifer, meanwhile, remained blissfully unaware. She texted Bo about baby insurance, crib ideas, and how they could decorate the nursery. She believed they were in this together, But the pregnancy that filled Jennifer's heart with hope only deepened Beau's resentment and moved him one step closer to a decision that would end her life. It was a Monday night, the kind of ordinary evening that hides the extraordinary ending it's about to hold. Jennifer had spent her day the way she always did, diligent at work, exchanging texts with Beau about health insurance for the baby, and making small plans for their future. She believed those conversations were the scaffolding of the life they were building together. At around 5:15 p.m., she came home. The November chill followed her through the door. Upstairs, the glow of the television filled the room as they settled in to watch Netflix. No raised voices, no warning signs. But in Beau's mind, something had already shifted. The decision had been simmering for days. They moved to the kitchen to make dinner. Nothing fancy, just the comfort of routine. Jennifer at the table, Beau nearby. And then, he said it. "There's something I have to tell you." The words cut the air in two. Beau told her he'd been having an affair. Jennifer's reaction was instant: shock, rage, betrayal. She demanded to know who. He refused. She pressed harder. The tension swelled like a storm pressing against glass. Then, according to Beau, she fired back with her own revelation. That she had been unfaithful to, and that the baby might not be his. Whether true or a moment of fury, those words were tinder in a room full of gasoline. Beau claimed he saw red. The red haze. On the table was a mallet, a tool he'd recently used to hang decorations. His hand closed around it. The first blow struck the right side of Jennifer's head. She staggered, disoriented, and tried to flee toward the garage, toward safety. But Beau followed, and the second strike landed with brutal force, cracking her skull. Jennifer collapsed, tumbling down the basement stairs. Down there, in the cold and the dark, the woman who had trusted him completely took her last breath. Beau didn't call for help. He didn't hold her, or apologize, or try to undo the violence. Instead, he began to think about what to do with her body. The basement was silent now, except for Beau's breathing. Jennifer lay motionless at the bottom of the stairs. A wife, a mother-to-be, and now, a body. For most people, the next step would be instinctive. Call 911, beg for help. But Beau didn't move toward the phone. He moved toward control. He told himself he had to fix the situation. That meant not saving her, but erasing her. Downstairs, blood had soaked the carpet and padding beneath, seeping into the concrete. The stains were large, dark, and impossible to ignore. He knew it. He'd seen enough crime shows to know what came next. Get rid of the evidence. Bleach, gloves, carpet cleaner. The smell of chemicals soon overpowered the smell of iron. It was a frantic but methodical process, scrubbing walls, pulling up sections of carpet, wiping away anything that could tie him to what had happened. At one point, he set up a fan to push air across the basement floor and opened the windows to vent the fumes, despite the November cold outside. Still, the blood was everywhere. By 2 a.m., Beau made the next decision. Jennifer couldn't stay here. He stripped her clothes, wrapped her in a tarp, and pulled a plastic bag over her head, sealing it with duct tape. Then he carried her upstairs, out to his 2015 GMC Canyon pickup. The drive was long and silent. 45 minutes northwest, through dark rural roads, to a wooded area near Troy, Missouri. He left her there in the grass, covering her with branches and leaves as if the earth itself could hide what he'd done. The cleaning supplies and Jennifer's clothing went into a dumpster at a business with no cameras. Each step, each movement, was calculated to remove her from his life entirely. When morning came, Beau slipped back into the role of husband. He went to work. He kept up appearances. He waited for the moment when people would start to wonder where Jennifer was, so he could play the concerned spouse. But no matter how much bleach he poured, or how many miles he drove, the truth was already trailing him. And it was about to catch up. By the next morning, Jennifer's absence was already being felt. She didn't arrive at work. She didn't answer her phone. And for someone as reliable as Jennifer, that was a blaring alarm. Her coworkers at DuPont knew something was wrong. Calls went unanswered. Messages went unread. This wasn't like her, not even close. That evening, at 9:44 p.m., Beau finally made his move. He dialed 911. His voice was calm, measured. He told the dispatcher he'd last seen Jennifer that morning as she was leaving for work. To anyone listening, he sounded like a worried husband. To Jennifer's family and friends, his Facebook post the next day sealed that image. Some of you may have heard already, but last night my wife Jennifer went missing. I filed a police report and the search is ongoing. Please, if you hear of anything or have any information, it would be greatly appreciated. There was even a $25,000 reward offered for her safe return. On the surface, Bo was playing the part perfectly, but investigators were watching closely, and the cracks were already showing. Security cameras told a different story. Footage placed Bo at a store on the night Jennifer disappeared, in the middle of a snowstorm, buying bleach, gloves, and carpet cleaner. It didn't match the version of events he'd given. When police searched the Rothell home, the truth began to bleed through. Red stains clung to the base of the basement stairs. Even after scrubbing and airing out the space, he couldn't erase it all. Human hair was found lodged in damaged drywall. In the garage sat Bo's pickup truck. The bed was covered and reeked of chemicals. DNA tests confirmed what detectives suspected. The blood throughout the house belonged to Jennifer. Bo's carefully staged performance as the grieving husband was starting to collapse. And the moment it did, the truth about what happened to Jennifer would surface, both literally and figuratively. The problem with lies is they have to be airtight. Bo's weren't. Detectives had already found the blood, the bleach, the torn-up carpet, but they wanted the why, the motive that would strip away the last of his concerned husband mask. That answer came from the woman Bo thought he could keep in the shadows. Her name was Melissa Munoz. Bo had met her on Facebook using a fake profile, presenting himself as a single man. Their relationship began months before Jennifer's pregnancy and had grown more intense over time. In interviews, Melissa painted a picture that erased any chance of this being a crime of passion. Bo had confided in her. He told her about Jennifer's pregnancy and how he didn't want it. He told her about his options, including the one where something might just happen to Jennifer. And on November 11th, hours after Jennifer vanished, Bo messaged Melissa. "Things are complicated now. She's gone." Phone records backed her up. Bo's cell pinged near Troy, Missouri, the exact area where, days later, Jennifer's body would be found buried under leaves. It wasn't just the location data. Search history on his phone showed terms like how to clean blood from carpet and how long before someone is considered missing. The digital trail was damning. The mistress confirmed the motive, and the forensic evidence tied it all together like a noose around his neck. The police didn't have to break Bo's story, they just had to keep tugging at the edges until the whole thing collapsed. And when it did, the truth about November 11th emerged in all its brutality. It happened on December 6, 2019. 3 weeks of investigation had tightened the noose around Bo Rothell's neck. The evidence was overwhelming. The lies had run dry. Now, there was nowhere left to run, except into the truth. Detectives sat across from him in a small, windowless room. The air was heavy, the walls closing in. A recorder clicked on. At first, Bo tried to hold the line, vague answers, half-truths, the same scripted worrying he'd rehearsed since Jennifer disappeared. But the detectives pressed harder, dropping photos on the table, the basement carpet, the bloodstains, the bleach bottle, the GPS data from his truck, and then, the picture of Jennifer's body found in the woods near Troy, Missouri. Bo stared at it for a long time. Something shifted in his face, not grief, not shock, but the quiet calculation of a man realizing the game was over. When he finally spoke, the words came slowly, like he was tasting each one before releasing it. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Piece by piece, he laid it out. The fight over dinner, the confession about the affair, the claim, whether true or not, that the baby might not be his, the red haze, the mallet, the fall down the stairs. He admitted to wrapping her in a tarp, driving her to the woods, and leaving her there under leaves and branches. He admitted to buying cleaning supplies that night. He admitted to messaging Melissa after the fact. But even in confession, Bo clung to a story that painted him as a man pushed too far, a victim of his own temper, not a calculated killer. Detectives didn't buy it. Neither would the jury. By the time the interview ended, Bo Rothell had gone from grieving husband to confessed murderer. The mask was gone. The performance was over. And all that remained was the quiet, inescapable truth of what he'd done. If you want more in-depth crime stories like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Justice is still unfolding. Stay with us.